Okay, let's quickly recap what you have learned about variables. Just click on this cheat sheet link and you should get a cheat sheet like this. So this picture that you see here is a quick overview of what we have learned about variables in Python so far. Point number one, what is a variable? A variable is just a pointer to data in memory. We have seen examples of two variables initially. Age is an integer variable that points to a location in memory, like so. And name is another variable that points to a location in memory. This chunk of memory contains, it could really be anything. Age is a number, right? Or a string, like a name, or Boolean, which is true or false. These are the only two values. Object is something that we haven't gone through yet because it's not until day 3 that we cover object-oriented programming. Is that all these things are in fact really objects. But until then, let's not worry about objects at this point. Number 3, what are the types of numbers? So within numbers, there are 3 different types of numbers that Python supports. One is an integer. So any number without decimals, like age. Age is an integer, right? 23 years. Weight is an example of a floating point number. Weight is pounds. Another type of number that's not so common is called complex numbers. You might your high school algebra, but it's not used often. So don't worry about complex numbers for now. Point number 4 is variable convention. So how are variables named? So the way you define a variable is pretty restricted in Python. So you want to define a variable that's always starts with an alphabet. So it cannot be a numeric number like ALPHA. That could be a variable, right? Because the first letter is an alphabet. And it cannot have special characters. Like the only special character that is allowed is an underscore. So for example, alpha underscore name. This is an example of a variable, perfectly valid. And what is not valid? Let's see some invalid variable examples. 1 underscore age equal 23. So if you're trying to define a variable that starts with a number, it is invalid. So a variable should not start with a number. Thing with special characters. Remember, only underscore is allowed. That's the only special character that's allowed as part of a variable name. Dollars, hashes, stars, caps, ampersands, none of them are allowed. So not an example of a good variable name. And another constraint is there are 30 odd standard reserved keywords that cannot be used for, or rather that cannot be used the way you like them. For example, the keyword for is used to define a loop. Now, we haven't covered loops yet. The point being, there is a reason why that keyword for is used, and you cannot use it for variables. Boolean. So this is another type of variable. It just says a variable is either true or false. So there are only two possible values that this variable can take. It can either take a true or take a false. For example, in your program, if you want to store whether a person is employed or not, right? So you define a variable, say is underscore employed, and if that person is employed, you can set it to true. Remember, this first letter has got to be a capital letter. Same thing with false. The first letter has got to be a capital. Say is employed equals true with a small t. This is not a valid Boolean variable. All right. It is always going to be a true or a false with the first letter capitalized. Now, don't worry if you don't understand why these variables are used, specifically the Boolean variables. As we go through the course and do some challenges, there are numerous situations where using Boolean variables. All right, next thing is strings. What are strings? Well, we have seen examples of strings, right? A string is enclosed either in double quotes or single quotes, and then within that you can say anything you want. So Ajay Tech is an e-learning company, right? So this is an example of a string. Now you can either use single quotes, it's your choice. So many inbuilt methods as well, like slicing or counting. These are all operations that can be performed on a string that Python supports right out of the box. And again, as we go through the course, we'll see examples of what we can do with strings. Point number 7, Python reserved keywords. So we have seen some constraints in terms of what a variable name can take. So in that we said we cannot use reserved keywords for variable names, right? So what are the list of reserved keywords? If you want to get a list, you can always go to Python help website, and then there is a list of Python reserved keywords. You can just do a Google search by saying Python reserved keywords and click on this, and you can see that these are reserved Python keywords. You can also get the list straight from Python itself. Just type in this set of two, import keyword. Now don't worry about what import does at this point. And then say keyword.kw list. And you'll get a list of all the reserved Python keywords. Just remember that we cannot use them as variable names. All right, point number 8, multiple assignments. So we have seen this example already. So instead of saying age equal to 21 and 101.5 in two different statements, you can club them together into a single line and say age, comma, weight equals 21 and 101.5. So what we're essentially trying to say, the value of age is defined here, the value of here, and it's separated by a comma. All that it is a quick syntactic shortcut, meaning we're just adding some syntactic sugar and easy. In fact, you don't have to restrict it to two variables. You can say age, comma, weight, comma, some other variable is equals 21, comma, 101.5, comma, whatever the third variable's value should be. So both these things are absolutely equivalent variables. All right, so let's go back. Okay, next about type conversion.